people tried to talk to me about different projects, different approaches, and it was French to me. And so it was really, I had to learn it myself. And me, I had to learn it all the hard way, which I hope I can help people avoid, with my book.
Welcome to another episode of Fund, Flip, Repeat. We are your private money lenders in Oklahoma and Texas. Your host and co-host, Joel and Ryan, of course. And today we are joined with Mr. No Money Millionaire himself, David Webb. Really, really excited about this. Dave and I recently were able to connect on some deals, and David just recently wrote this book, No Money Millionaire. And David, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but this book is a guidebook of leveraging OPM, other people's money, creative real estate, and it's loaded with mindset tips that you can practically use as tools that's going to really help you with wealth building. So I'm really, really excited about this. And I'm also really curious about the origin story about the book as well. So David, really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just jump right into it. So man, what was the spark that made you write this book? Was it frustration? Was it success? Was it something else? Or what was that?
I guess it was a couple things. Yeah. For one, where I'm from in Detroit, I'm from the inner city. I grew up, went to inner city. I went to the public school system in Detroit, and where I'm from, nobody talked about passive income. I didn't really even know anybody that owned property. You were lucky if you were able to rent something where I'm from. This was never taught to us. And so, I just learned it the hard way, a very expensive tuition, losing a lot of money, making a lot of mistakes. I still have a lot of people, a lot of friends that are back there right now. And I keep trying to tell them, man, you guys can do this. You guys can do this. And I actually have one out here with me who actually just closed on a triplex, did it with no money out of pocket, worked a seller finance deal. And so, I had someone come from back there and I helped them. Well, I keep telling other people, man, you can do this. I'm watching them struggle. They're staying at home. They're not making, they're making ends meet. They're still stuck that they feel they have to work hard for money, and instead of making money, work hard for them. And they don't know how to flip that mindset. And so, I wish that something like this had been available to me, or I could have found this along the way. And so with that, I, instead of just trying to tell people, I sat down, I said, I'm going to write it in a book, and then I can get it out to more people. And because I'm sure there's a lot of people in a similar situation that's outside of Detroit. So I figured I could, get it out there to more people by writing the book.
Love that.
Love it. All right, Detroit, let's go. Go Lions tonight.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Joel and I are both.
We love the Lions.
Lions fans for life.
What's that?
We're all Detroit fans here, David. Actually, we were born in Michigan, so we love the Lions, the Red Wings, the Tigers. So
before the Lions were amazing, and I lived out in California, and people would hear I'm from Detroit, and they're like, "You really from Detroit?" I said, "Man, I love the Lions. I got to be." And so it's one of those things. Even though they've been what they've been, if you're from Detroit, you love them. And now they're doing what they're doing. It's like, yeah, we knew it. We knew they had it.
That's right.
Yeah. It's been awesome.
It's great to see, though. It
Sorry
really
to derail us there for a second, but getting back to the topic at hand. So speaking of your book, there's so much information out there, and I think it's hard for folks to kind of sift through what's fact, what's fiction. When it comes to that, like, what would you say the biggest myth is that you tackle in your book when it comes to real estate?
Well, Mine really comes down to mindset. The biggest myth is, you have to have good credit. You have to have a big savings. You just have to have all of these set items. And that was the hurdles, even myself. I had done 2 no money deals, and I still was stuck in the mindset that I still needed credit. I still needed a down payment. It hadn't clicked in myself yet that I could do these things and continue buying real estate, even though I had done 2 deals previously. So I was still stuck in the beliefs and the limiting, structure that I had to follow. I done 1 deal in the, or mid 90s, no money out of pocket. I didn't have a job, didn't have credit. I was able to structure it. It was a deal that I was buying my father's home. Luckily I found a lender who would work with me, and he helped me. I mean, at that time it was the yellow pages. And so I was just calling one after the next. I want to buy this house. I want to buy this house. And everyone was like, you got credit, you have a down payment. And I went through so many rejections, but I didn't stop. I was relentless. I just kept finding someone, and finally I did. And the guy said, all right, let's figure this out. Let's see what we can do. And so I brought in my brother for the credit aspect, and we went with traditional lending. And I brought my brother for the credit aspect. And then my dad was able to gift equity to us for what we used as the down payment. So we went in with no money out of pocket and ended up buying the house, and we flipped it. And then the second one was during the 2008 crash, or right before the crash. And someone came to me and they said, why aren't you buying a home? And I was like, I was turning myself down before I even tried. I said, I can't buy a house, man. I don't have the credit. I don't have any money. And just luckily for me, just one day I was browsing Craigslist and I saw a home with seller finance. And I think I came out of pocket $1,500 to get in there. But it was out in California, and I was able to, get it. It was a value add, and renovated it and flipped it. But even after that, I was still stuck in the mindset that I had to have the set pieces. It just didn't click for me yet. And you had mentioned some of the other material and stuff that's out there. Well, coming from where I'm coming from, and I was trying to read that stuff, it was all French to me. I just couldn't understand it. It just didn't make sense that I could do these things to be able to be creative to get properties. It was just really overcoming my own mindset to get past all of those myths that you mentioned.
It really is fascinating, right, David? Because like we always say, business is easy, people are difficult. Like really the rules of the game are the rules of the game, but it's so easy to get in our own way. And we do that. We do that all the time. But no, I really love hearing you say that, because I think that's so true. And I think that's helpful to a lot of people to hear exactly what you said. Because even with a sweetheart deal like seller financing, $1,500, it's like, yeah, that can be done. And sometimes just actually executing and doing it and seeing it happen, tangible, taking that action. Yeah, I got to see it in person to believe it, type of thing. It's like when I was wholesaling, I had to do my first wholesale deal to believe like wholesaling is actually a real thing. Or flipping a house or whatever, XYZ strategy, XYZ business, plug it in. So if someone handed you $10,000 today and said, start over, what would you do first?
Well, I mean, I just released a video. If I started from zero, what would be the first 5 things that I would do? And that was my latest video I just put out. And, I like to just put deals together. That's what I do. I find the deal. Then I find the people to bring this together. And so, my first thing is I joined the group where I met you. I joined real estate investors groups. That's my very first thing I would do. If I started from zero today, I would start getting where these deals are starting to be presented, and that's what people are doing. And then, one of the next steps I would do is start trying to find someone such as yourself. I'd start trying to find where people are giving money and make relationships and do that. And the third, I would go and look for private money partners, and that's just start putting everything together. So those are the 3 essential pieces for myself. And then after that, you're looking for, creative deals. I'm always looking for deals.
Yeah. Yeah. That's gold right there. Be involved in the community, start building your team. I mean, 100%. So good, David.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the 3 essentials for me. Everyone, wants to try to do everything themselves. And it's just, you're not going to get far like that. You can only do so much. And so I've learned to structure deals. I bring in private partners, private money. I give them an amazing return on theirs. I'm able to just orchestrate it all, manage everything, and I come out of pocket without any money. But yet, we're still doing some amazing deals. So
you kind of just hit on it. I'm wondering if you can expound on this at all, because earlier you hit on this concept of having the right mindset, right? And that being such a key component to what you hit on in your book. When you think about the investors that are successful compared to the ones that are not, there's plenty of both. Is there one sort of core belief, key belief that kind of sticks out in your mind as to the one that unlocks success?
First, the first thing you have to do, and I tell this to people all the time, I mean, you've got to truly believe in what you're doing. If you don't believe you can do it, no one else is going to believe in you. And so the first thing is overcoming your own hurdles and your own obstacles. Like I had mentioned earlier, I was denying myself before I even attempted to try to do a deal. I was turning myself down. People were saying at that time I probably could have gotten approved. I don't know. They were giving loans out all over the place, but I never attempted it because I was chained down by my own beliefs. And so I think the first thing you have to do is to really, to believe you can do this, to believe it's true, and, to the core, because that was the thing with me. Everything seemed French to me at first because, people are telling me I could do it. No, I can't do it. I read some books about it. I still just didn't understand it, still just didn't believe it. So it's really just knowing inside. Once I learned, once I believed and I knew I could do this, there's been no stopping me. But what stopped me in the beginning was myself.
What's one part of your investing process most people would be shocked to learn about?
What's one part of my investment process people would be shocked about?
Yeah.
Well,
or just the investing process.
I buy millions of dollars of property without a dollar. So that's what I'm all about. I just closed on, a group of 9 houses, 1.1 million. I didn't come out of pocket a dollar. And so, this is what my whole book is about. You can do all of this without any money. As a matter of fact, I'm about to talk with you later about one that I was just telling somebody, I'm busy till, after 11. I said, let's get together. I have one that we're about to start working on together.
Awesome. Perfect. Speaking of that, okay, so
you go, Joel.
Sorry. You're talking about a 9 package deal, no money out of pocket. Yeah, people will be shocked to hear that. That's a good answer. Like, what's the hit on like one of your best deals you've done, or like most exciting deals? You don't have to get into the particulars necessarily, but like, what does something like that look like? Is it something like this, like a big package deal, or is it commercial, or is it residential, or is it just, what does that look like for you?
I guess this is what I'm meant to do because all of it is just so exciting to me. I just love it. But one that I think I did amazing on was a 20 unit mixed use. It was residential and commercial, but it was it was mostly residential. 16 residential, 4 commercial. It had 4 stores at the bottom, 16 apartments on the top. That had sat on Zillow for almost a year. So everybody's seen it. Everybody passed it up. Nobody saw it for what I did. And it's an amazing. I won't never let that property go. I absolutely love it. It was completely deferred maintenance. I mean, it was in horrible shape.
Yeah.
They were asking $1 million for it. And I just, I went and looked at it. I seen it had been there a year. So I didn't act very interested. And I waited for them to call me back because then they saw they had somebody interested. But after that, I just left and I waited for them to call me back. And so the realtor called me and she said, well, what do you think? I said, well, I don't think it's worth $1 million. I'll tell you that. And, I had no idea what it was worth, really. This was one of my early properties. I just knew if you're asking $1 million for this, it can't be worth it. It was in horrible shape. And so they said, well, what do you think it's worth? And I don't know, maybe 600, 650. I just figured I'd lowball it. And she said, is that your offer? I said, okay, well, since I came out of, since I already let 650 out of my mouth, I figured I'd roll with that. So I said, okay, yeah, 650. And came back, we negotiated, ended up at 675. I put a couple $100,000 into it in renovations. This was all structured, where the bank was providing the rehab money.
Yep.
I have total out of pocket, 900 on it. When I got it, it was 75% vacant in the residential and 50% vacant in commercial. I have that property today at almost 100%. And it was when I bought it, it was bringing in 4,200. Now it's at 17,000.
Nice, man. Ring the bell.
I love it. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Yeah. I love it. So, and the thing about it is that sat on Zillow for almost a year. Do you know how many people looked at that and just, I don't know, didn't see what I saw, but it's one of my best properties.
That's the art of it, right? It's just being able to see what other people can't see.
Yeah. And that's one of, this is a new video I'm going to be releasing soon. Most of these deals that I'm mentioning, I found them all on Zillow. So everyone, you hear everybody say, oh, you can't find anything on Zillow. Zillow's all retail. And, almost every single deal I've done since I've been here have been on Zillow. That 9 house deal, that's that on Zillow. Other people just turn it, look, just you look at it and just don't see it for what I see it for. And so far, I've not found any, that hasn't turned out the way that I had thought they would.
I think you're hitting on something that's really important, which is that perspective can be everything, right? And so on that deal, you were willing to look at it differently, and sometimes that's what it takes, is that creative mindset that you were talking about earlier. So, I mean, you're taking all of this experience and this perspective that you've honed over the years, you poured into your book. I'm curious, thinking about the book writing experience itself, how did that help shape or change your perspective on money and success going through that process?
The book took a long time. It took a lot longer than I thought it would. You write some and then you go back and you reread it, and what I thought was going to be a chapter turned into 3 or 4 as it continued going. And the book writing process really, really helped break down, because I had just been doing what I was doing. I was just on a roll. I've just been doing the properties. I was just doing it for myself. And that's all it was until I started writing the book. Once I started writing the book, now I was doing it for a bigger purpose. And, I was breaking what I do. I was breaking it down so I got to actually see it. I didn't really see it as clearly until I started breaking it down. I started seeing the method of what I was doing. What is my approach? What is my everything? What I found my lane when I started writing the book, which is, because before I started writing the book, I had a convenience store. I put in one of the empty spots in that mixed juice I told you about. It was empty. I said, "Oh, I'll put a convenience store in here."
Yeah.
I had another building that I was trying to buy. I was leasing. I was going to put a liquor store in there. And after writing the book, I found my lane, and I've stopped with both of those. I only do this now. This is absolutely everything that I do. And so it helped me find my approach and my method. And so,
well, I really love that, because I think it speaks to, the go-giver mindset that you have, if we're talking mindset, right? And with that mindset, and you're writing this book because you're trying to download your experience of what you've walked through to help other people, right? So right now, with all these interactions that you're having and people with the feedback on your book too, like, what mistakes do you see investors making over and over and over again right now?
well, one of the biggest ones that burns me today, I learned this the hard way. And I had a property. If I had it today, it would be a home run. I knew what it was. And when I bought it, and I didn't know how to do what I do today. I didn't know how to leverage it to get the money to renovate it. I didn't know how to do it yet. And when I was trying to approach banks and I was trying to approach stuff, they could tell I didn't have any experience doing it, and nobody wanted to work with me. And I ended up, losing money on this deal. But what stuck out to me, to answer your question, was when I put it on the market, the agent said, he said, "Dave, you make money when you buy properties, right?" And I knew exactly what he was telling me. I knew exactly what he was telling me. And so, since I couldn't follow it through, I had bought it too much. And so when I was trying to sell it now, I ended up taking a sizable loss on that. But it was tuition, man. It was tuition. And it was, like I said, it's been an expensive tuition. I've learned from the mistakes, which that's what I try to help people avoid in my book, so you don't make these mistakes. And what I found, like I said, that one mixed juice was $1 million and I came in at 600. A lot of people won't even think that they can do that. They won't think they can just come in so low.
For sure.
There again, it's those limiting beliefs that we have in ourselves that they won't even attempt it. They're like, "No, man, I'm not going to come in at half of what they're asking." They won't even attempt it. So I've learned, just, put it out there. Whatever you're thinking, put it out there. Let them decide. Don't decide for them, so that, those are some of the big things that I've learned.
Yeah, I love that. We'll use a Detroit reference here. If Eminem, if your palms aren't sweaty making an offer, then you're probably not making an aggressive enough offer. You got to be a
That
little
wasn't
uncomfortable
Detroit.
with an
Yeah,
offer. So
that wasn't Detroit, that one. Man, I don't know how familiar you are with the city, downtown. This was in Brush Park. It was right across from Little Caesars Arena, walking distance to, it's one of the greatest areas, and it was one of the mansions, and I could have leveraged it and used it for the rehab, and I could have done amazing on it. But I didn't know all that then. Those are the
Sure.
mistakes that I'm trying to help people avoid.
Yeah. Okay. So Joel hits on downloading, right? You're downloading this information, giving back. If you had to boil it down to one thing from the book, what's the one thing that you hope your readers are going to remember?
I fight this every day with people. And I don't mean to sound repetitive, but it's really they got to change their mindset. People just don't know and believe they can do this. I had someone that worked for me, and she knew what I'm doing. She knows the properties I own. She worked for me. She saw me every single day. And I told her my book was coming out. And it's called, No Money Millionaire, how to buy property, with no money. And she said, that doesn't even make sense. Nobody's going to give you properties. You're not going to be able to do that.
Right.
And that's what I'm fighting all the time. I have good friends that see what I'm doing, grew up with me, knows the change, knows where I'm from and where I'm at today. And they still won't come out of their comfort zone. They still won't go, one thing you have to learn, and maybe this would be the answer, you have to learn, and I'm stealing this from somebody, and I can't give credit. I don't know where it goes, but you have to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. We get in our comfort zone, and that's our trap. And we'll stay in a situation that we're not making enough money. We're not making ends meet. We're struggling. We have zero for retirement. Where I'm from, I know someone personally that I came to visit, and I see that they have candles on at night. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they said, well, and they're on Social Security. And they said, well, I want to keep my bills low, because if my bills are high, then I don't have the money for food. And, the same person would have a blanket on to keep the heat low. And, who wants to work all of this time, work as hard as we do to get on a fixed income to where we have to make those decisions? And so even though I know people, that's what they're facing, and they know that's what they're facing, they see it every day around them, but they won't come out of their comfort zone to try to do something that they're uncomfortable with. And that's what I find, people are trapped in the most, is staying in a comfort zone that, even though it's not good, it's what they know.
Yeah. Have you seen, because you're out there on the front lines now in the battle, if you will, right? Because I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I've been in this business for a long time too, and I've seen it, and there's analysis paralysis, and there's all other sorts of things, and things that we're touching on here in the podcast are very real things. And some of it can get really personal too, and emotional, depending on who the person is. Are you seeing the light switch or the light bulb turn on with some of these folks though that you're interacting with after they're reading the book and stuff like that? And are you getting positive momentum? I mean, because it is a hard thing, right? You're saying you're out there fighting it, and I completely agree, but you're seeing those shifts too, right?
I am. I told you, I just had one person close on a triplex. This person,
ring the bell on that.
Never, no money out of pocket. They did a triplex. They had to. They were forced, but they've been watching me, and they've wanted to do something. But they just still didn't feel they were ready yet. But they were pushed, and so they were renting in the building I was leasing. I was trying to buy it, couldn't come to terms with the owner, and this one I was going to do the liquor store in. Well, it had an apartment on the back side of the building. And so once I decided I was finished with that property, I told the person, I said, listen, I'm done there. And the owner didn't want anybody living in that apartment. And so he was forced to move. Well, he had, I don't know how many dogs, 3 or 4 dogs. He didn't have any credit. He didn't have any money saved. So he was stuck. But that's how his life had been. He knew that was his comfort zone. He knew how to live that way, and he was used to it. So he came to me, he said, well, do you have a property I can rent? And I said, why don't you buy something, man? Try to do something. Yeah. And so he did. And he found a seller finance on Craigslist, and he was able to negotiate doing some rehab as his down payment. So nice. The triplex had two of the units rented. One was vacant, so he was able to move into the one, rents the other 2. Those 2 cover his note. So he came in with no money out of pocket. He's living there for free, and now he's he's kind of got it. And now he's looking forward. He's preparing for next year to lease out to start looking at the next property. So with him, it's already, the fire is lit and he's ready to go. And so that one I see firsthand. But other ones are, I get stories, I'm getting them little by little. The book's only been out just, I don't know, a month or two. And so the stories are starting to come in though, I just got one over the weekend. A guy told me his story and told me he's inspired by what I'm saying. And he was telling me what he's made the move to do. So the stories are coming in. And then I have some people that I'm helping at the moment. I'm coaching them, I'm walking them through. So their successes are coming.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, do you have any last minute things for David before we wrap here?
Yeah, I just appreciate you coming on, just sharing so openly. I love the story, the context, and I love how you weaved in what is clearly so important to you. No matter what we asked you, you came back to mindset, and that just really came through and shown through today. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Well, that's been my biggest hurdle. I've been there. People tried to talk to me about different projects, different approaches, and it was French to me. And so it was really, I had to learn it myself. And I had to learn it all the hard way, which I hope I can help people avoid, with my book. Yeah. And, I know people are struggling. I know they have hard times making ends meet. So I've made the book available for free. You can download it for free. It doesn't cost you $1. It's at nomoneymillionaire.com. There's nothing that should be stopping you from getting this information and applying it. You can do it.
Wow, that's awesome. We're going to leave that link in the show notes as well, so you guys can download that. And David, where could people also connect with you on social media or email or whatever you want to share? Where would other people also be able to connect with you?
Well, you can Google No Money Millionaire. You're going to find me.
Okay.
But nomoneymillionaire.com, No Money Millionaire on Facebook. It's No Money Millionaire anywhere. But yeah, you can Google it. And you just Google No Money Millionaire. You're going to find me.
Excellent. Awesome. And that'll be in the show notes as well. Mr. No Money Millionaire, David, thank you again so much for your time. It's been a lot of fun. And we'll talk to you guys all on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.